I feel like a cupcake in my skirt, and I just had to wear it because it's so on theme with our next film for Saturday night at the movies. Hey there, Fiber Junkies! Welcome back to The Color Cauldron. I'm Johanna, the owner and dyer behind Potion Yarns and host of this podcast. If you're a new viewer, thank you so much for joining me for one of my very favorite segments on the podcast, and if you are a returning viewer, welcome back for more fun. Today we have my favorite thing we do here at The Color Cauldron, which is Saturday night at the movies. It's a blending of my two passions, knitting and fiber arts, with vintage, vintage style, but vintage style in cinema. Every month we pick a different film that features a scene that has something to do with fiber arts, whether it's knitting, crochet, spinning, maybe there's even just wool in the background or they talk about a craft. One time we even had a film where nobody was actually doing it, but they mentioned knitting. So we do different things like that. We also do things like sewing, embroidery, anything that has to do with fiber arts, not just knitting and crochet, anything having to do with fiber. We do a little film review, and then we also pair it with a pattern. Now the pattern is usually knitting, sometimes crochet, and it always has to do with the film in some way, whether it's directly related or whether it is actually kind of obscure and just kind of makes me think about the film or has the same kind of a feel. This month we have a really sweet sensation for you, something really extra fun, just a nice little treat for all of you guys, especially those of you who grew up watching this fun film, and that is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory from 1971. This is the old original version featuring Gene Wilder. There is a new version called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with Johnny Depp, and we're actually going to focus on the old 1970s version today. This is a film that for a lot of you guys I know has a lot of nostalgia and fond memories of your childhood growing up, or maybe watching it with your kids or grandkids. I personally was one of those people who was not treated to this film as a child. I actually never saw it growing up, which is kind of amazing to me because a lot of you guys that have watched the podcast know that the reason I started Saturday night at the movies is because I was raised watching old films. We almost never watched modern movies except for the occasional Disney cartoon when I was a kid growing up. So I knew way more about Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn in second grade than I did I couldn't have told you any of the modern day stars at that time. And my dad is an old movie collector, and he instilled in me a love for vintage cinema. And so it's kind of amazing to me that I didn't ever grow up watching this, because it's the kind of thing that we would have watched as children, but for whatever reason, we didn't. And so I actually never saw this film until I was an adult. It was actually only, I can't remember if it was a year ago or 2 years ago. I think it was about 18 months to 2 years ago that I saw this for the very first time. So in my 30s, which is crazy. And my husband could not believe I hadn't seen it. It was a childhood favorite of his growing up, and so he wanted to rewatch it because he hadn't seen it for years and years. So we got it and watched it, and I remember the first time watching it, I was like, I mean, okay, I guess if it's like from your childhood and it's nostalgia, I could see why you like it, but I wasn't that impressed with it. I was like, it's kind of cutesy. I get some of the jokes now that people make about Oompa Loompas and stuff, but I don't really, I don't love it. I'm glad I saw it once, probably will never watch it again. I am so, so glad that my husband insisted that we watch it again recently, because he really loved the film and couldn't believe that I didn't find it magical and amazing. And so we wanted to give it another try, and so we watched it recently, and I'm so glad we did, because not only is there knitting all over this movie, so it's great for Saturday night at the movies, but it was really fun, and I had a lot of fun watching it with him. I hate that I keep using the word fun, but that is what it is. I enjoyed very much the film this time around, and I got a lot more out of it this time because he and I had talked about some of the deeper themes that go into this, what seems like on the surface, a fun, quirky, cutesy kids movie. So this isn't really the time or place to get into philosophical discussions or deep themes or looking at like the Freudian roots of characters and all of that stuff, but there is a lot of that in the film, and I'm sure if you Google it, you can find tons of analyses online that will get you into the deeper meanings behind Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, if you're so inclined. Even if you don't go to that level of depth with it though, maybe when you watch it, try to see if you can pick out what are like the deeper themes or the like common themes that run through a lot of myths and legends and fairy tales. Because for me, that was the thing that I picked out of this film, was finding the correlations between the myths and legends and fairy tales of another time. This is almost like a modern legend. It's not real, obviously. It's never like a historical fact, but there are deep truths and patterns that run through this film that are present in a lot of stories and myths of bygone eras. And I think that that's really important. So see if you can pick those out. But we're not going to go into a deep analysis today. We're just going to focus on the fun, light, enjoyable things and talk about knitting, because that's what we're here for. So if you've never seen the film, the basic quick synopsis is Charlie is a little boy who is living with his mother and his 4 grandparents. His 4 grandparents are bedridden. His mother works very, very hard, but they are very poor, and she can barely keep food on the table. They're really, really struggling to make ends meet. And Charlie, like all children his age, really, really loves the magical candy that is made by their local candy man, Willy Wonka. Nobody's actually seen Willy Wonka, nobody's been inside his chocolate factory, but it's this like magical kind of mysterious, legendary kind of place, and he makes the best candy in all the land, and all the kids love it. And he makes these Wonka bars that are kind of like a chocolate bar, I guess. And in the beginning of the film, we find out that Willy Wonka is doing a promotional where he's giving away 5 golden tickets. So hidden inside the wrapper of these Wonka bars, there are 5 random bars scattered around the area that have golden tickets in them. And if you get one of the golden tickets, you get to come and go into the factory and tour it and meet Willy Wonka and basically go to no man's land, right? Like nobody's ever been inside. People don't even know how it actually runs and how he produces the candy that he makes because nobody works for him, nobody knows what goes on, no one's been inside, nobody sees him. It's super mysterious and super exciting, but everybody wants to win, even the adults. So there's like a panic all over the world and people are buying these Wonka bars and everything. And Charlie desperately wants to find a ticket, just like every other kid, but he realizes that his chances are pretty small. And so one by one, we start seeing these tickets get found by kids all over the world. And so we start seeing these 5 kids get picked out. And when there's only 1 left, they're down to 4 kids have been selected. There's only 1 left, 1 ticket left to find. And Charlie, through random circumstances, spoiler alert if you couldn't figure it out already, ends up finding the last ticket. So he's able to go, and each of the kids gets to bring 1 guest with them, so a parent or guardian or somebody. And so Charlie selects his old grandpa, who he kind of has a special bond with. And his grandpa is able to miraculously get out of bed to go to the chocolate factory, not to help his family work or get money, but he can go to the chocolate factory, amazingly enough. But he gets out of bed to go with Charlie to the chocolate factory, and they're so excited to share this special bond together. And then the majority of the film is them and the other children touring this factory, and each of the other kids represents kind of like a major vice almost. There's a kid who's like really bossy and demanding and throws temper tantrums all the time. She's kind of like anger or wrath. There's a little kid who plays like or watches TV all the time, kind of like sloth. And so there's these 4 kids that are really like awful, bratty children. They're like the kids that you never ever want to be around, and they're the kids you never want your kids to turn out like. And so each of these bratty children is touring with Charlie and his grandpa. And one by one, the bratty kids, start kind of getting picked off and disappearing. So it's kind of a process of elimination, and Charlie is just the only one who seems to be a decent little kid with a sense of right and wrong and being respectful and everything. And even Charlie finds himself tempted by the distractions and creations of the chocolate factory. I'm not going to tell you any more because I don't want to spoil it, and it's really kind of, in one sense a simple story at the outset, but there's a lot of like little details and twists and turns that make it fun. I don't want to spoil it for you. It's really best if you just have that very vague overview and then just go enjoy it. So go check it out. It's really fun. Where is the knitting? I mentioned that there's knitting all over this film. That's probably a little bit of an exaggeration, but there are a lot of scenes in this film, significantly more than most of the films that we do on this podcast. I do occasionally get one where there are lots of scenes or where knitting or crochet actually features prominently in the plot. A few months ago we did a Betty Davis film where crochet was a big part of the plot actually. But in general, it's usually just like a quick glimpse of somebody in the background knitting, or a quick comment about somebody like sewing or embroidering or something like that. So we have kind of a loose definition of how to include fiber arts on this podcast, but this one there is actually a lot of knitting involved. So the person doing the knitting is Charlie's grandma's. I know one of them knits a lot. I think they both knit at some points in the film, but maybe it's just one. I can't remember. You'll have to go watch it and let me know. But his grandma is knitting, because I mentioned he has 4 grandparents and they're all bedridden, and they have these 4 like single beds, like twin beds, all kind of pushed together where there's like 2 and 2 facing each other, and they're sitting around, and so Charlie will go in and sit on the bed and talk to his grandparents and stuff. And there's several scenes like that, especially in the beginning of the film, where you see one of the grandmas is knitting, and then she's making stuff for Charlie and his mom to wear. She makes stuff for the other grandparents to wear, and I think we even see some of her knitwear that Charlie is wearing in some of the early scenes in the film as well. So you can imagine it would be really hard for these old people, probably knowing that they're like a big drain on her, but they're not really able to help contribute that much. I'm not sure if that'll fit, but hopefully it will. Okay. The one thing that one of the grandmas can do, though, at least one, maybe 2 of them, is that they can sit there and they can knit warm, woolly things for their family. And so I love that they are contributing in that way, at least helping to put some clothing on everybody's bodies and keep them warm, and they're doing something. It's not, going out and buying stuff and getting a job like the mom is doing, but they are able to at least do a little something to help provide for the family and do a little something to help. So I love that. So yeah, there's our knitting scenes. There are quite a few, so enjoy those. And this is just a really fun film overall, and it kind of speaks to the child in all of us, I think. So what is our knitting pattern or our crochet pattern this week? I actually found a fun little project that I have not gotten to knit yet, but it's been on my radar and on my to-do list for years. But I will pop links to the free patterns I found below, because this is a really cute project and everybody's going to want to make one. And it is a cupcake hat! I could not resist this cute, fun, whimsical little project for this week. I just was thinking about, I wanted to do something candy themed, something kind of magical and fun, and I actually had a really hard time narrowing down my choices because I found about 6 or 7 different project ideas that I loved, from fingerless gloves to sweaters to hats to socks, everything. I found a ton of different things, and I decided to go with this one because free patterns are always great, especially when we're quarantined for coronavirus and some people may be out of work and strapped for cash. But also it doesn't take a lot of yarn. It's a fairly quick knit or crochet. It's a really great gift item. And like I said, it's been on my radar for a while and I've been wanting to make it. These fun little hats are so cute, and the best part is you can make them pretty much any color that you want. So the cupcake base is kind of like the brim or crown, the brim of the hat, and then the crown and top area is like the cupcake topping. So like the frosting, any little maraschino cherries or anything you want to add. And you can really get wild and crazy and do fun embellishment. You can just knit like a plain top to the hat, or crochet a plain top, and then you can like embroider little sprinkles or little flowers or candies. You can like crochet little 3D elements, like little gumdrops or flowers or something that you could sew onto the outside. You could do a fun crazy stitch if you're good at altering patterns and you feel adventurous. You could do something like a blackberry stitch or something to try and give it more of like a look of like lumps of frosting. I probably wouldn't go to that much work. I'd probably just knit it plain and then embellish it with embroidery or sewing things on or whatever. Another fun idea I really love for this is to use a sparkle yarn for the top of the cupcake hat. So you can hold a couple strands of fingering weight together to get a thicker weight, or there are sparkle DK yarns out there. You can just hold a single strand of sparkle fingering next to like a DK or a worsted weight, or a couple strands of sparkle fingering, and you would get a thicker yarn as well. And so I think that could be fun to have those little flashes of stellina or lurex in it, which could look kind of like like metallic sprinkles or something. And then my favorite idea for the cupcake topper is to use a speckle yarn to get that fun like confetti sprinkled kind of look. So I brought up a couple of my speckle yarns to show you. This one is called Pink Ruffle Panties. It's a white background and then it has pink, purple, and gray speckles, and the gray and one of the purples sometimes break a little bit, which is when the dyes splinter into their component parts and it creates little random flashes of blue. So this is a fun like light colored one, mostly white with just like a little hint of pinky purplish to it, that would be fun for a cupcake topper. I personally love these two the best. These are from my Alice in Wonderland collection. This one is called Off With Her Head, and it's a soft pink background with bright pink, red, blue, and a tiny bit of black speckles. So that would be a really fun one. Another pink that is like one of my very favorite colors I've ever dyed is called La Vie en Rose. It's a little bit more of like a rosy mauvey pink background than this one, but it's still quite light. And then it has like pink and cranberry and purple speckles over it. So it's just like all pinks. There's none of the blue or black or anything that Off With Her Head has. But it would be another fun like pink candy-ish option. And then one of my favorite colors, probably my very favorite color from my Alice in Wonderland collection, is Unbirthday Party. It's this minty aqua background, and then you've got like hot pink, gold, and brown speckles. So I think this would make a really fun like cupcake topper as well. But really any speckle yarn would be great. You could use a white background with like really bright neon speckles if you wanted, or you could do like a darker background, like a purple or gray that had some speckles, deeper speckles over it. Yeah, you could do just about anything. I would not use something like a really, really high contrast variegated yarn, maybe like a subtle variegated if you wanted to, but I would go for more of a solid or a speckle for the cupcake topper personally, but that's just me. You could try it and see if you like it. There's just all kinds of things you could do, and you can make them in lots of different colors. They typically are made for like babies and little kids, but there's probably adult sizes out there as well, and I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I would wear a cupcake hat. So if that floats your boat, you go for it. Like I said, I do have a knit and a crochet version of this pattern for you that I will pop in the description box below. There's also a link to my online shop. Several people have been asking where they can purchase my yarns. Every video that I do, the very first link that you will find in the description box is to my website, so you can check that out as well. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. The more likes I get, the better. And please share this with your friends and fiber fanatics that you know. Saturday night at the movies especially, we do once a month, and that one is a really fun one you can share with anybody, not just fiber loving friends. So they don't have to be a knitter, crocheter, sewer, etc. to enjoy this segment. I actually have several friends and family that watch it who don't do any fiber crafting, but they really enjoy the film reviews and like the fun quirky little videos that I find, because a lot of times I'll find older films on YouTube or in the vaults of my library or something that they'd never found before. So definitely share this with everybody you know who might be interested in it, but especially your fiber loving friends, because in addition to Saturday night at the movies, we also do a regular knitting podcast where I talk about what I'm working on, my crafting adventures. We talk about yarn, how to use indie dyed yarn, how to make sure your yarns don't bleed in the wash. We do tutorials on stitches, talk about how to knit socks, we talk about shawls, all of the fun things. It's a really good time. You should come check it out. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode, and make sure that you click the bell so that all notifications are turned on. That way you don't lose my video notifications. I am down to doing videos only about once every other week or so, so I'm trying to get 2 videos out a month. I am dealing with a new baby. For those of you that don't know, I have a 5-month-old baby now, and he is keeping me extremely busy in addition to running my hand-dyed yarn business at home. So my filming time has been cut into significantly. So I do my best, but we're down to doing only 2 videos a month instead of doing 4. And I'm still trying to get out quality content to you, which just means that I need to do a little bit less so that I can do a little bit better videos. But we will have more coming soon. Leave me a comment, let me know how you liked it. Let me know if you've watched Willy Wonka and what you thought of it. If there were anything stuck out to you about like deeper themes or anything that you found really interesting about the film. And if you have any great candy, like magical patterns, definitely leave a comment and let us know those as well, because I'm sure we can all share with each other some great ideas. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. It is now time to cast off. Love you.